Welcome to the King of Iron Fist Tournament 7, Ling Xiaoyu.
Greetings to you, my friend. This guide will teach you how to play with and against Ling Xiaoyu in Tekken 7. I will make this into a complete guide, meaning I'll talk about things like pokes, stances, combos, punishment game, and during all of this weave these things together to form a sort of game plan and style, as well as anti-strategies. Let's start with an overview. Ling Xiaoyu has been in the series since Tekken 3, although her current iteration is one of her absolute strongest ones. With a solid toolkit of pokes, whiff and standing block punishment, combined with above-average combo damage and a good mix-up game, she is a monster in the right hands. And then we haven't even mentioned her evasiveness yet. Ling Xiaoyu is an excellent character to expose flow shards and bad habits of your opponents. Likewise, however, Xiaoyu players oftentimes fall in these very same traps themselves. Knowing how to punish a mediocre Xiaoyu player is your key to success against her. I won't be able to go over every move in her move list. I will, however, try to cover as much as possible, but there will always be things not mentioned. I still hope this guide will give you an idea of how this character works. To start this section off, let's talk about one of her strongest tools, down forward 1. This I-14 mid poke high crushes and leaves her at a big advantage on hit. Being -4 on block means she can move decently well after it, while also having the option to do another one to beat out high moves. This move tracks well to her left, but is vulnerable to sidewalk left. She can choose to end the move standing by holding down forward, or end it in rain dance or back turn by letting go of down forward. This can be a decent way to set up your rage drive, but we'll get to that a bit later. Keep it in mind though, there's more where this came from. Let's move on to her 1 series. Her 1 jab by itself is like most 1 jabs plus 1 on block. It doesn't really move her forward a lot though, making keeping the pressure up with it somewhat harder than with most 1 jabs. She can extend her 1 jab in 2 ways, the first one being 1-2 and 1-2-1. The last 2 hits are NCC, but not the whole string. The last hit is -9 on block and can be delayed, making it a safe and decent tool to net a wall splat. The other way to extend her 1 jab is with 1 down 2, or 1 hold down 2. The first version will leave her in rain dance, and it can also be extended into a third hit with 1 down 2 1+2. The last 2 hits are NCC, but not the whole string, and the 1+2 hit can be punished on block and can also be sidestepped if the whole string is blocked. If the 1+2 connects, however, it nets a free 4-3 ground hit. Worth noting is that if the second hit of 1 down 2 is counter hit, rain dance back 3 is also guaranteed. Let's go back to mid pokes and forward 3. This kick can be annoying to deal with, especially if you're unaware of the escape of its counter hit properties. When getting hit by this move on counter hit, the opponent will be thrown to its side. To escape this and block the otherwise guaranteed rain dance 4 follow-up, simply hold or tap forward. The only 2 characters that can't do this in Tekken 7 are Master Raven and ironically Xiaoyu herself, although Master Raven can parry it, Xiaoyu can't. Moving past the counter hit state, the move itself is no slouch. It acts as a forward-moving mid-poke, which sets up all sorts of options from rain dance on both block and hit. This includes stuff like rain dance back 3+4, rage drive and the dreaded Roo kick. I'll discuss her backturn mix-ups in more detail later in this guide. Another mid-poke from standing worth mentioning is down forward 4. This is an I-12 mid-kick with similar frames on block and hit as down forward 1. While being faster than down forward 1, it lacks its high crushing properties and it doesn't track to any direction. Moving on to lows, one of her better additions in Tekken 7 is down 3. While this move lacks good frames on hit, its high crushing properties, speed and tracking of sidesteps somewhat makes up for it. In addition to this, it also has a high follow-up. If not ducked, it's 0 on block and the whole string is NCC, making it a decent tool to expose certain flow shards and fake mix-ups. Downbuck 4 is an oldie, but a goodie. A low damage low poke with insane plus frames on hit makes it a solid tool to force mix-ups by the wall. It tracks steps decently well, although it's weak to sidestep right block. Oh, and did I mention it's a counter-hit launcher? The next low on the list is sidestep 4. While leaving something to wish for in regards to frames on hit, its tracking and damage makes it one of her best lows. Coming out of a sidestep, it can sometimes be a bit telegraphed, making it important to step into backdashes and step into other moves to mix it up. Oh, and did I mention it's a counter-hit launcher? A decent mix-up to sidestep 4 is 4-3. According to some, one of her more annoying tools, this crushing mid leaves both characters in full crouch on block and on hit. I could talk about this move forever, but to keep it simple I'll tell you this much. This is one of the tools I use to check how well my opponent knows the Xiaoyu matchup. While being -1 on block, most people think they can get away with always doing a wild standing 4 in retaliation to blocking this move, to keep her honest. Think again. When it comes to this move, it's really all about knowing your and your opponent's options while making good reads. Oh, and did I mention? Yeah, it's a counter-hit launcher. Another mid tool to mix sidestep 4 with is 1+2. This looks like the last hit of 1 down to 1+2, however this variant of the move is safe on block. Just as with the string, it gives her a free 4-3 on the ground on hit and a much tighter forward 3 pickup. Down forward 2-1 is one of her best launchers. It's the go-to tool for whiff punishment with a staple juggle that deals 65 damage. Thanks to it only needing the second hit to connect for it to launch, its range is deceptively good. It's -12 on block, but it tracks in both directions. Another good tool for whiff punishment is standing 3. This move got buffed in Tekken 7 and is now a 14-frame launcher. The combo differs from her normal launchers, but the ending gives her solid Oki. Down back 1 is her Death Fist. It's safe on block and gives decent pushback, while on hit netting her a knockdown or wall splat. The only real weakness to this move is its tracking, as it can be sidestepped to any direction. Another move with bad tracking but otherwise great properties is up forward 3+4. In some crowds known as the rat-a-tat, this move needs to be escaped on hit in order to negate the otherwise free 4-3 follow-up. This is done by holding back when landing. By the wall, it becomes a wall-splatting move. Thanks to its fast startup and evasive properties, it's a tool often used to stall and end rounds when the time is starting to run out. Its biggest weakness, however, is its linearity. Be prepared if you step it though, the whiff punish might have to be adjusted depending on axis and travel distance. To continue with moves with bad tracking, let's talk about her running 3. This is a plus on block mid-launcher that leaves her in Art of Phoenix, AOP for short. While this doesn't track sidewalks, it can catch sidesteps. Its floaty nature can make it risky versus characters like Gigas and Jack, both characters with strong jabs to keep her out. On block, it sets up her mix-up game from AOP, however, with its disadvantages. I'll talk more about this later. There are many moves I won't have time to cover from her standing game arsenal, but before I move on, I have 2 more moves to mention. The first one is her Magic 4. This I-11 kick gives her a counter-hit launch, however it's plenty minus on block. The second move is back 1. This 8-frame mid can be very useful to make people hesitant during their pressure game or to simply interrupt certain strings. To summarize her standing game, its evasive nature and the fact that it nets her decent damage is a force to be reckoned with. While the frames on block aren't always the best, she can usually move around freely, and a lot of her strong mid options while being minus on block are still technically safe. As in previous games, her biggest weakness is her tracking. She's particularly weak to sidewalk left, and generally have to take risks in order to track in this direction. Moves that track in this direction include stuff like down forward 2-1, back 4, and her homing moves. Forward 4, which is a high, back 2, which has poor range, and sidestep 3, a seeable low launcher. Since Ling Xiaoyu oftentimes finds herself in full crouch, it's worth noting what tools she can use from there. Let's start it off with her while standing 4. Being one of the best I-11 while standing punishers in the game, this kick nets her a knockdown and decent damage. By the wall it combos into a generic down 4. In the open, forward 3 will pick up people that stay on the ground for a combo. Taking or holding back will prevent this, but holding back still gives her the grounded hit. From a tech roll, a dash-in raw AOP forces a mix-up which can't be sidewalked or interrupted. One last thing to note about while standing 4 is that it's -10 on block. By the wall, all characters can punish it. In the open, some characters can punish it if the move is blocked slightly off-axis. Next up on the full crouch list is while standing 2. This I-13 counter-hit launcher is safe on block and can be a very strong tool if used correctly. Setting it up directly from her lows can sometimes be a bit tricky, as most of her lows that leave her in full crouch aren't very plus on hit. It's still a very good tool, and I recommend you to try and use it as a read tool. Look at your opponent's tendencies after certain situations. For example, if the character you play against have a hard time dealing with 4-3 on block, and the player decides to do slower moves to beat her AOP options, while standing 2 might be a strong counter tool. For lows, there are 2 noteworthy moves from full crouch, the first one being full crouch down 3. While having pretty bad frames on block and hit, its decent speed and solid range makes it a useful tool at times. The other low from full crouch worth mentioning is full crouch down forward 4. This move has amazing evasive properties and ends in AOP. It also has a follow-up, which is safe. The only way to punish the second hit is by blocking the first hit and then low parry the second hit, or by sidewalking the whole string and whiff punishing her. The fact that the first hit ends in AOP and that there is an optional second hit makes this move rather tricky to deal with. Ling Xiaoyu is what can be referred to as a stance character. She has 3 special stances at her disposal: Hypnotist stance, Rain Dance, and the infamous Art of Phoenix. In this section I'll cover how to get into these stances, what she can do in them, and ways to deal with it. AOP, the stance notorious for having true high crush and at the same time evading a lot of mid moves. In addition to this, its raw animation has a sidestep built into it, meaning she evades not only in the y-axis, but also to the sides. Oftentimes, when people say, "Oh my god, I can't believe AOP went under that," what usually happened is the move got sidestepped. AOP is entered by pressing down 1+2. Adding a manual sidestep right before the down 1+2 input makes the transition into the stance extremely evasive. This is known as a sidestep right AOP. It will evade a lot of moves that usually cannot be sidewalked to the right, and even moves that usually hits AOP. This transition animation with the extra sidestep is what generally destroys people who aren't familiar with the matchup. For example, a sidestep right AOP will evade any option from Akuma's Demon Flip when cancelled from a move. Another way of going into AOP is by doing it from an instant full crouch notation. Doing an instant full crouch AOP by pressing down, down forward or down back 1+2 will evade some other moves like Raven forward 3 or Chloe back 3. Knowing which of your character's moves will beat which option she might take is important, but just as important is to stay cool. Stepping with her or simply backdashing can oftentimes be much more beneficial than trying to beat her out over stance transitions. Let's start talking about her tools in AOP, and after that, how to deal with them. Her AOP hop kick, up forward 3, is once again a full launch on the first hit, unlike in Tag 2, where one of the follow-ups needed to be used. The follow-ups include up forward 3-3, which is a high safe on block kick. Up forward 3-1 is a mid punch that leaves her in AOP. Up forward 3-4 is a mid kick which is unsafe on block. All of these options can be punished in some way, may it be by ducking or block punishing. The hard part is making the correct read and reacting to punish. Even up forward 3-1, which ends in AOP, can be punished on block. You can cancel AOP into block on frame 15 after this move, meaning an I-14 move is required to punish. This move also needs to cover her other options from AoP like AoP down, side rolls and another hop kick for it to be a true block punish. Experiment with your character to see what punish you get. Another strong mid from AoP is 1+2. This move is very safe on block, much more so than most people think, and gives a knockdown on normal hit and a launch on counter hit. A common setup by the wall would be to use its neutral on-block properties to score a magic 4 wall splat. AoP down 1+2 is another strong mid from AoP. This is one of her most damaging launchers and it's safe on block. Add to this its evasive properties and you got yourself a pretty good move. This move along with AoP 1+2 are two of her main mids in the AoP mix-up game. The next mid on the list is AoP 2-1. This NC string can be semi-hit confirmed mostly thanks to the ability to cancel it by holding back. This cancel will leave her in rain dance after the first hit. The string gives a strong wall splat and has some other good qualities I'll talk about later. This is one of her most important moves to punish on block, especially if your character has a good 10, 11 or 12 frame punisher. AoP 4 is a fast mid poke from AoP. Its damage is far from impressive, however its speed and decent frames on block and hit makes it a solid and safe tool to use. For me personally, this is one of my most used moves from AoP, especially when checking what people tend to do in certain situations. AoP up forward 3 down 1+2 is one of the most damaging launchers in the game. Against almost all characters, with the exception of some, it gives guaranteed hits in their back that leads into an eventual launch. This move is extremely important to punish the use of to discourage any abuse. Check your character's options, as with the punishment on AoP up forward 3-1. The last mid to cover from AoP is up forward 4, and its follow-up with up forward 4-4. This long-range move has some amazing frames if spaced correctly, and can be as much as +11 on hit, making while standing 4 a natural combo. Xiaoyu has the option to continue the string or to end it with one hit in full crouch in AoP or in rain dance, making it a bit hard to deal with properly. Moving on to lows, I first want to quickly cover AoP forward 4 and its 4 follow-up. This is the same move as full crouch down forward 4-4, meaning it has great evasive properties and can be very tricky to deal with. Now on to the big one, the move people have been complaining about since the release of Tekken 7, even after it was rightfully nerfed. AoP 4-3. This sweep leaves Xiaoyu in an amazing Oki situation, especially if the Ling player is able to do the crouch cancel down forward 2-1 follow-up consistently. This option will, if executed perfectly, always hit the opponent on the ground, even if they roll to the sides. At the same time, it will launch back rolls, get-up kicks and stand up into block. The option that truly checks if the execution was spot on is the stand up into block option. This is a near frame perfect launch, meaning if the launcher was inputted a bit too late, it will get blocked and punished. Other options from this low sweep is while standing 2, while standing 2 hold, while standing 4 and slower moves like sidestep 3 and crouch cancel into 4-3. All of these options have their weaknesses and can be evaded or blocked in some ways, leaving crouch cancel down forward 2-1 to be the best option for Xiaoyu if you can execute it. Generally, as the opponent playing against Xiaoyu, the best option is to stay on the ground. Back rolls, get-up kicks and stand-up all entail the risk of being launched. However, it's important to take note of what the Ling player likes to do. A while standing 2 hold, for example, will hit people that stay grounded. If this is their go-to follow-up, getting up in some way is required to negate the extra damage. If the Ling player only does crouch cancel down forward 2-1, check their execution by standing up straight and block. Punishing this move on block leads to a float combo. If the move is whiffed, however, for example after a sidewalk, it can be whiff punished into a full launch. One final note before moving on to how to deal with AoP is about her forward 3+4 forward roll. This move is a fast way to close distance and move under certain projectiles, like Akuma's fireballs and certain item moves. There are few things more satisfying than moving under silly item moves and then kill them with a 120 damage combo. Another movement option Xiaoyu has in AoP are her grab rolls. These are inputted with 1+3 or 2+4, and depending on which throw you input she will roll in a different direction. The grab at the end can be cancelled into full crouch by holding down. Now, as an opponent of Ling Xiaoyu, it can oftentimes be frustrating to deal with Art of Phoenix. The stance is strong in the poking game thanks to its evasive transitions, and it can sometimes feel like she can force the mix-ups from the stance whenever she wants to. Luckily for her opponents though, this is not always the case. Let's take running 3 for example. This move leaves her in heavy plus frames on block, but as far as her mix-up game goes, this doesn't really help her. AOP 1+2, down 1+2, up forward 3 and 4 tilde 3 can all be sidewalked to the right. The only moves from AOP that attracts sidewalks to both directions are AOP 2-1 and AOP 4, meaning she either has to take a risk being block punished or simply settle for a standard poke if she wants to cover sidewalking. While this is still strong, it's nowhere near as strong as freely being able to mix between her sweep and her big launching mids. This information can be used in other situations as well. Some Xiaoyu players are well aware of the strengths of sidestep right AOP, but are less aware of her weak tracking in AOP. This can lead to flowcharted stance transitions after certain moves into so-called whiff punishment, which was not based on visual confirmation, but simply expectations. This can be dealt with on reaction by simply sidewalking. When it comes to dealing with AOP transitions in the poking game, certain characters have tools that work very well against it. An example would be Giga's down forward 1, which hits AOP both as is and in either down 1+2 or sidestep right down 1+2 transitions. When facing good Xiaoyu players, entering AOP in the poke game will be based on your tendencies as an opponent. Focus on not flowcharting your pokes. If your character has a really hard time dealing with the transition, try to play more defensively and opt for block and whiff punishment. As a Xiaoyu player, if the opponent starts reading and punishing your AOP attempts, the same advice would be solid for you. And remember, you have access to the same tools as the rest of the cast, meaning sidestep and sidewalk left is still available. Going back to Gigas, if the player relies too heavily on down forward 1 to beat your AOP attempts, a sidewalk left will make him whiff. One final note would be the discussion of lows. Since lows, especially those that track to the left, generally have a higher chance of hitting AOP than mids and certainly highs, it can be a good idea to use low pokes a bit more frequently than against some other characters. Xiaoyu has rather weak while standing punishment, with her while standing 4 being her only real punisher from frame 11 to frame 15. Her hop kick is I-16, as with up forward 3+4, meaning -15 lows will have to be punished by while standing 4. Granted low parries are strong in this game, it's still something to consider. Rain Dance, Backturn Stance or RDS, is actually the reason I started playing Xiaoyu in Tekken 4. The absurdity of turning your back against your opponent was simply too hilarious for me to pass up on. Entering the stance is done by pressing back 3+4 in neutral or in AOP. It can also be done from full crouch with down back 3+4, giving it a different transition. She also enters RDS after certain moves and cancels, like forward 3 and AOP 2-1 back. This stance is built on two fundamental concepts: enforcing her mix-up game and adding to her evasive and slippery style of fighting. The stance was both nerfed and buffed in Tekken 7. With the removal of 50-50 throw mix-ups, but with the addition of her godly rage drive, I would say the net worth of the stance has gone up. I will start by going over the key moves in Rain Dance and then talk about how this stance fits into her game plan as well as how to play against it. The first move I want to cover is actually not an attack, but a movement option. RDS back 3+4 makes her spin away from her opponent. This is her only way to move backwards in this stance while also staying in RDS, and is typically used after moves that leave her in backturn at a distance, for example a shallow hit forward 3. It can also be used in the neutral dance to confuse the opponent or simply for style points and timer scamming. Another way for her to create distance in RDS is by inputting down back. This will put her in full crouch while taking a rather big step backwards, creating opportunities for whiff punishment or counter hit while standing 2 interruptions to strings. RDS 1+2 is one of her main mid tools from Rain Dance. This move has a hit confirmable follow-up in 1+2. Thanks to its speed, after entering RDS from, for example, hitting down forward 1 or 1 down 2, it's uninterruptible by conventional means and cannot be sidewalked. The first hit in this string is safe on block, and thanks to the follow-up even more so. Be aware though, the full string is barely plus on hit, while the first hit leaves her at a solid advantage. The next mid on our list is RDS4 or Mistrust. This I-13 mid launcher is one of the most important moves to block punish if thrown out a lot, and almost all characters can launch punish it. Mistrust is generally used as a whiff punishment tool after moving around in RDS or simply just ending up backturn. Mistrust is one of the moves that if you ever find yourself in backturn AOP still functions the same way. A not so uncommon situation with Ling is being jumped over by certain moves while in AOP, like a spring up kick. Being able to quickly realize this will happen can net you good damage by simply pressing 4 at the right time. Another mid option for launching opponents is her backturn hop kick, RDS up forward 4. This move is a bit safer than throwing out a Mistrust, but in comparison it lacks both the range and its speed. Its hitbox is also fairly high for being a mid, meaning an opponent ducking at the distance might make the move whiff. Her last launching mid from RDS is the infamous Roo Kick, or RDS forward 3+4 3+4. This one will require some discussion. First of all, its evasiveness makes it into one of the reasons attacking into RDS with an improper knowledge of the stance can result in tears. It's one of her most damaging launchers, with the staple juggle doing 75 damage with no walls. On top of this, it's also one of her only solid tracking options from RDS, thanks to its forward-rolling momentum. Finally, she can choose not to execute the actual launcher by just inputting RDS forward 3+4. This is called a California roll, or Cali roll. This is a great tool to get into position versus a moving opponent, given the fact that the potential follow-up creates some hesitance. Roo Kick is one of the moves a lot of people are having trouble punishing, mostly because of a lack of knowledge. King, for example, can punish it with his hop kick, since it's a knee, and Noctis and Master Raven can punish it with their down forward 2s. Because here's the tricky part. Xiaoyu has 3 different parries in RDS, and of course the potential to do another Roo or Cali roll. One of her parries is RDS forward 1+2. This move parries punches between frame 1 and frame 5. A successful parry leads into a launch, which can be just frame blocked, but it's safe on block. Her other parry is RDS 1+4. It parries punches and kicks from frame 1 and with a longer active window than forward 1+2, however it doesn't lead to any guaranteed damage. Finally, she has Rain Dance down 1+4, a command low parry. This means that any punish to be guaranteed to work will have to be quick enough to negate all these parries and at the same time be hitting low enough to beat a second Roo Kick. But the blockstone is short, meaning the move have to be punished pretty fast. If your character has a string of swords that's guaranteed in the back, and its first or consecutive hits aren't negated by her many options, the potential for a big damage punish is there. Here are a couple of example punishes. Moving on from Roo Kick, our next important move is RDS down 3. This low poke got changed from tag 2, and she has no longer the option to stay in RDS when executing it. Down 3 is Xiaoyu's primary low for her RDS mix-up game, with solid plus frames on hit and a potential to do a high follow-up. This follow-up can be delayed, however it's still risky to throw out. When in rage, Xiaoyu gains another extension from this move, down 3 3+4, her Rage Drive. This move is one of the absolute best additions she got in Tekken 7, being a low, unseeable launcher dealing a solid amount of damage. Punishing it on block is possible, as with AOP up forward 3-1 however, the Punisher also needs to be able to hit AOP down, her side rolls and her hop kick, to be a universal punish. If you're uncertain of how to punish the move, opt for a low parry instead when you think it's coming. Another great move from Rain Dance is Rain Dance Back 3. This is an I-10 kick dealing solid damage, however it's both high and -8 on block. It's useful to score endings and to condition her opponent into blocking versus Rain Dance after, for example, a blocked 1-down-2. It might, however, be punished if overused. A fringe low from Rain Dance is up forward 1, a move that ends in AOP. This move can be cancelled into full crouch by holding down back when she's in the air. If the move hits though, AOP 4 is a guaranteed follow-up. Now, how does Rain Dance fit into her game plan? With many moves transitioning her into RDS, one of its core features is adding to her mix-up game. After hitting moves such as down forward 1, forward forward 3 and 1-down-2, her primary pokes from RDS with 1+2 and down 3 will be hard or impossible to beat or move away from. Forcing these situations will ramp up damage over time, and when she has access to her Rage Drive, it will create even more potential for damage. Her Rage Drive can be set up in multiple ways, one example being from a cancelled Sidestep 3 sweep. This is done by inputting Sidestep 3 and then hold back. If not overused, the hesitation created from wanting to block the sweep will open the opponent up for a 50-50. The second core function of Rain Dance is movement. Using forward forward 3 as a keep out tool, having the move blocked in shallow ranges have the potential to create very beneficial range situations for Xiaoyu. Both her RDS back 3+4 and RDS down back moves are far away, making it hard for the opponent to start an immediate offense. Another way to take advantage of this stance is by jumping over your opponent, or simply be prepared if you're ever caught in backturn because of the sometimes chaotic nature of Tekken's 3D engine. There are many ways to set these situations up, usually by the wall as a tech trap. When playing against a Xiaoyu player who uses RDS moves in an overly aggressive way, especially when not in the correct frame advantage, it's important to take advantage of the stance's poor tracking. The only move that tracks sidewalk right is Roo Kick, which is punishable. It's important to know when to sidewalk, however, as frame advantage for Xiaoyu will remove her tracking issues. Maximizing your punishment on moves such as RDS 4, Roo Kick and RDS down 3 is also very important. Hypnotist stance is the least used stance in her arsenal, but it has its fringe uses. It cannot be transitioned into from any move. Instead, it's entered by inputting either up back 1+2 or down back 1+2. The stance consists of Xiaoyu taking 3 steps, then automatically exiting the stance. During these steps, a couple of special moves can be used, 2 of which change their properties depending on how many steps she's taken. Hypnotist 2 is a mid-punch with some interesting properties. It's always safe on block, but after 3 steps it's +24 on block, with no natural guard. This means that if the move is blocked after 3 steps, she can get guaranteed follow-ups. In the open she can do a dash down forward 2 tilde 1. Against the wall, which is a more typical scenario, a forward forward 1-3 will splat into big damage. The move is however very linear and can be hard to set up properly. The second move to change properties depending on the number of hip steps is her unblockable, Hypnotist 2+3. It simply does more damage per step taken. The final move to take note of is Hypnotist 3+4. This high kick is a plus on block launcher, however it's rarely used because of the need to set it up, and because of this it's slow startup. Its biggest use is as a semi-tech catch by the wall, although this setup has its flaws. A thing to remember when it comes to Hypnotist stance is the fact that any button that doesn't coincide with a Hypnotist-specific move will make the equivalent move from neutral to come out. This means that the stance can be instantly interrupted by both movement and moves, so staying on the ground isn't a safe option to select against the stance in total. Finally, for a matchup-specific tip, Hypnotist stance can be used to evade Akuma's Rage Art. Ling Xiaoyu's standing punishment is very strong, starting with 1-down-2 at 10 frames, a punisher I will discuss in detail at the end of this segment. At 12 frames she gets her shoulder, forward 1+2. This move has better reach than it seems and can punish moves like Kazuya forward 3 fairly consistently. at 13, and depending on range 14 frames, she gets back 4-4. This is a slightly more damaging Punisher than forward 1+2, however it doesn't have the same reach and its frames can be a bit iffy depending on range. Just as forward 1+2 though, it wall splats. At 14, as a major buff in Tekken 7, she gets her first launching Punisher. Standing 3 will punish moves such as Jack down forward 2 and Master Raven forward 3, and thanks to its range, moves with pushback like Akuma down forward 2-4-3. Knowing when to use this Punisher will greatly increase your chances of winning, as many characters have tools that are -14 on block. At 15, down forward 2-1 becomes her go-to Punisher, as long as it reaches. The staple combo does 65 damage and has decent carry. The input can be slightly weird to do depending on block stun length, so it's worth practicing versus certain moves with tight punishing windows. Her while standing punishment starts at 11 frames with a while standing 4, not counting her I-10 down jab. This move knocks down on normal hit and is her only Punisher up until I-16, where her hop kick up forward 3 becomes available. For staggering lows I use while standing 2 hold, however some players likes to use up back 3+4 instead. Theoretically she has a I-13 while standing Punisher with while standing 2. This is however less damage than while standing 4, and while the mix-up in Rain Dance can generate some scary damage, while standing 4 is generally the better option. Her 10 frame standing Punisher, 1 down 2, leaves her in Rain Dance at +8 frames. This means her basic mix-up of RDS 1+2 and RDS down 3 cannot be sidewalked or backdashed, and it cannot be interrupted by conventional means. This obviously becomes stronger if Xiaoyu is in rage, thanks to her rage drive, however if the opponent has rage, a rage art can interrupt her mix-up. Generally, it's safer to go for the 1+2 mid and hit confirm it, seeing as the low is -12 on block and can be low parried. It's important, however, to show your opponent that the low exists and will be used at times. If your opponent ducks and low parries too much, the option to go for RDS up forward 4 or even mistrust can be a high risk but very high reward. In previous games, Ling Xiaoyu has been known as the goddess of Uki. While Uki has been nerfed somewhat in Tekken 7, she still has some great setups. By the wall, she has many tools to catch a tech-rolling opponent. Doing only forward 2-1 as a wall combo allows her to empty jump over for a Rain Dance 4 in the back. Sidestep into up forward 1+2 can cross-up hit into a guaranteed Rain Dance 4. For people that learned this and stay on the ground, forward 1-2 into Hypnotist 2 will hit them for solid damage. In the open, shorter combos opens up the ability for catching people with empty jump overs. Some combos also allow for up forward 1+2 to be used as a cross-up in the open. This works when she's off-axis to the left, which she can create mid-combo. For people that generally are afraid to tech against Xiaoyu, she has some places where she can pick them up for a reset. Ending a combo before her tailspin with Rain Dance 2-1 for example, sets up a pickup with forward 3 if they do not move. This can be used to extend a wall carry. There are some situations where up forward 1 and Rain Dance up forward 1 will be at a better advantage on hit than normal. In the open, the only follow-up that is guaranteed from Rain Dance up forward 1 on hit is AOP 4. After certain combos, however, she can get an AOP to 1 follow-up. This has to do with the angle of which the move hits the opponent. There are many situations where Xiaoyu can option select certain moves and strings. An example would be versus Jin and his 1-2 string. Both extensions, 1-2-3 and 1-2-4, can be avoided by a raw AOP, and whiff punished with AOP up forward 3. Obviously this becomes risky versus Jin players that are aware of this and your tendencies, but it's nice to know it's there. The same thing is possible versus Chloe's jab string mix-up. Another example is Eddie's back 1-4 string. The second hit of this string can be avoided with a raw AOP, and any follow-up, including Eddie not doing anything, will be punished by an AOP 4 float combo. There are many more examples of this in the game. She also has specific and extremely damaging punishes on certain moves. One example would be Jack's 1+2, a homing 2-hit move series where the second hit is high. Ling can evade this second hit with AOP and then punish it with AOP up forward 3, down 1+2. When it comes to setting up Xiaoyu's Rage Drive, only your imagination will hold you back. There are many moves that leave her in rain dance, like for example down forward 1 or back 2, forward 3 and sidestep right back, all of which can create enough hesitation or frame advantage for your mix-up to be effective. Another option would be to simply go into rain dance manually or to enter it from AOP. Entering the stance from afar and going in with calorie rolls is also an option. Be wary though that players used to playing against Xiaoyu will be aware of these moves and your Rage Drive, meaning you might have to get a bit more creative. Sometimes only the potential of your Rage Drive to come out will be enough for people to want to hit you out of rain dance, meaning both rain dance back 3+4 and down back are great tools to create whiffs. Xiaoyu has 3 special throws, 2 of them being 2 breaks and the last one being a 1+2 break. Out of her generic throws, the 1+3 throw has the better Oki, meaning there's almost never a point in doing the generic 2+4 throw. Down forward 1+2 is her 1+2 break throw. This throw sets up a back roll and quick stand trap with forward 1+2 and the harder to execute down forward 2-1. The same goes for her down forward 2+4 throw, which is one of her 2 break throws. This throw also breaks the floor for a combo on Forgotten Realm. After her generic 1+3 throw, back to 2 will hit opponents holding back. For people staying on the ground, Xiaoyu's many ground hitting moves are good options, like down forward 2-1, 4-3 and sidestep 3. Lastly, she has her forward 2+3 throw, which is a launching throw. It nets her a guaranteed rain dance 4 in their back. There are however 3 different ways to break this throw. By the standard means of pressing 2, or by holding the direction of down, or tapping forward in the right moment. The last option will turn the opponent around standing, but Ling is still at a frame advantage. An easy way to practice versus Ling's throw game is to simply always hold down after breaking a throw, no matter what you broke. Ling Xiaoyu has been described as a Swiss army knife, and for good reason. Her toolset allows for her to play both aggressively with an emphasis on pokes and chip damage mix-ups, and defensively with strong whiff punishment. All of this along with her ability to inflict solid damage from evasive moves, such as Roo Kick and Sidestep Right AOP. With down forward 2-1, standing 3, rain dance 4 and AOP up forward 3 and AOP 1+2, she has the ability to whiff punish from a decent range no matter what stance she's in. This outro is as far as I can go when it comes to a too long didn't read section. If you're looking for ways to beat Xiaoyu, I highly recommend that you go into practice mode and check some of the stuff I've talked about. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. Links to the Tekken Saibatsu Discord and the Ling Xiaoyu specific Discord are also in the description. Thank you.